Part 127. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1264. Welcome. Please remember the address of this website. Read on your mobile phone so that you can read the latest chapter of the novel Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky at any time. Duojian, what are you talking about? Jiayan? Is it the opponent you haven't seen before? Haha, do you still remember that guy? I think I heard you say that he didn't come this time, and even if he came, you have made such rapid progress in these years. Your opponent at the venerable level back then might be a sub-level opponent now. That's all, it's not worth your attention at all. That's right, maybe you didn't see him before because that guy named Jia Yan didn't dare to show up when he saw you, so he hid. Around Duojian, one genius after another, they respectfully criticized the Jia Yan Duojian, a genius who had suddenly emerged in recent years. You must know that Duojian is in their stellar academic field. The geniuses they have cultivated over the years have taken more than 10 years to go from the venerable level to the half-star level. Although he is now only a half-star level person who is not outstanding in strength. Exists, but he was still brought to this genius exchange battle as an exception, in order to familiarize him with the familiar situation. In the next few decades, maybe it will be his turn to be the strongest semi-star in the stellar academic field. On the head. Some seniors in the field of stellar science even asserted that Duojian could even be promoted to the stellar level in 100 years, and that he could be promoted to the stellar class in more than 200 years of life. Even in the field of stellar science, he can be regarded as an indispensable figure. What a genius! But at this time, Duojian, the genius who had always behaved very coldly, seemed to be under a restraining spell, and even his whole body was trembling slightly. This, how could he reach this point? Impossible. Duojian was completely stunned. Even if he loses his composure, at this moment, he is still staring at the place where Jia Yan is, with his mouth wide open, as if he has seen something that makes him scared. What's wrong? Just when he seemed to be unable to control himself, a stellar powerhouse who took care of their group of geniuses came to them. This creature resembles an earth goat, only magnified countless times. It was the 11 bandit who had previously led Duojian and other stellar academic geniuses to have a small-scale exchange in the genius battlefield. The previous Western bandits were sent to the front to prepare for the battle star, so they had not seen the star-level powerhouse who was new to the genius battlefield. Even if he received information that an additional star-level powerhouse had arrived in genius battlefield, he still didn't pay much attention to it, because as he said before, there was one more star-level person and one less person. Stellar class does not pose any threat to the field of stellar science. At this time, when he saw the stellar academic genius Duojian who was like his half-disciple, he actually changed his calm expression from before and looked at a certain direction of the genius battlefield with an expression of disbelief, and he couldn't help but turn his head to look. That is impossible. Suddenly, he seemed to be so strong, showing a state of shock that he could not extricate himself from for a long time. Because he saw that when he led Duojian back from the genius battlefield, one of Duojian's most regrettable opponents suddenly joined the genius battlefield team. Of course, what shocked him the most was not the appearance of the creature, but that at this time, the creature, which was originally only at the level of a venerable and not terribly powerful, actually had an extremely huge body and exuded a coercion comparable to that of a Western bandit. Stellar. What's going on? Then why is Jia Yan already at the stellar level? The bandit thought he was wrong, and Duojian beside him also thought he was wrong. If you didn't see it wrong, you just recognized the wrong person. Otherwise, in just a dozen years, why could Jia Yan suddenly jump from a venerable level to a stellar level? Hey, isn't this a Western bandit? Come on, let me introduce you to him. This is the most powerful monster-level genius in our genius battlefield over the years. Oh, I remembered. You met him back then. I'm here, do you remember? His name is Jia Yan. As for the genius battlefield, Longta was extremely sharp when he saw the Western Bandit and Duo Jian beside him on the battle star. It was as if they had seen something shocking. He looked at Jia Yan blankly and understood immediately. He did not avoid this old rival. On the contrary, he approached him very kindly this time and introduced Jia Yan to the Western Bandits. You, are you really Jia Yan? That venerable creature from the 132nd Star District back then. The bandit asked the sentence in an almost difficult tone. Senior West Bandit, thank you for remembering me. Yes, I am the Jia Yan who was inspired by this tough friend back then. The giant Mosquito came to Duo Jian and the Western Bandits. While talking, he also looked at Duo Jian, as if he was really thanking him for his guidance more than 10 years ago. You, Jia Yan, I don't believe it. How could you be Jia Yan? How could you be promoted faster than me? That hard turtle's head shook as if he couldn't bear it at all, and then his eyes glowed with fire. It's definitely not right, this is a cover-up. Your strength is at the second level at most, because you are not even a top genius. I mastered the methods of the big family and was promoted to the top talent after returning to the stellar academic field. Why are you more talented than me? Powerful. Faced with Duo Jian's accusation, Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. Of course, now that he is a star, he doesn't have to pay attention to this enemy who was only a half-star. I want to challenge you. Jia Yan, we still have unfulfilled obligations from the battle of the past. I want to challenge you. I want to expose your true face. Duo Jian seemed to be crazy, and actually challenged Jia Yan, who had a terrifying star-level aura in front of him. What? Duo Jian actually wants to challenge a stellar powerhouse, he's crazy. Why is Duo Jian, who is usually so calm, actually challenging a stellar powerhouse? Isn't this his true nature? No, he called this stellar level expert, Jia Yan? Could it be that this was his venerable level opponent back then? This is impossible. In the sidereal academic field, others could not understand Duo Jian's thoughts at all. However, in the genius battlefield, there are some people who are extremely considerate of Duo Jian's thoughts. There was no way, they had been completely unable to accept Jia Yan's promotion speed. In more than 10 years, he actually jumped from the venerable level to the stellar level. This is like an earthling who suddenly became an adult from a baby in 1 year. This is a completely unacceptable growth rate. Duo Jian, do you really want to challenge me? Just as Duo Jian was jumping around like crazy, Jia Yan finally replied helplessly. That's right, I want to challenge you. How can you be a star? It will take at least several decades for me to become a star. How can you be so virtuous and capable? You will be promoted faster than me, a top genius. You must have used a special method to deceive others, I will tear off your disguise. Duo Jian almost shouted angrily. Puff. Suddenly, a terrifying and powerful brainwave force suddenly bombarded the place where Duo Jian was. Duo Jian was completely unable to resist. Under the bombardment of this brainwave power, the turtle spurted out a mouthful of blood, and then flew away with his eyes instantly weakened. Jia Yan. What are you doing? Only then did the Western Bandit come back to his senses in shock. An equally huge brainwave force spread out, deflecting the brainwave force that bombarded Duo Jian, and then protected Duo Jian. It turns out that the one who took action before was Jia Yan. This friend, Duo Jian, wants to challenge me. I'm just accepting the challenge. The Western Bandit, a half-star weakling, wants to challenge the majesty of a star. As the strong ones, we should punish him. You think I did something wrong? This. The Western Bandit was completely speechless because Jia Yan was absolutely right. Well done. Just when the Western bandits had no choice but to save Duo Jian, who was unconscious, Long Ta had already turned around and praised Jia Yan softly. Duo Jian's strength is that of a top genius. Even if he has been promoted not long ago, he is not strong in the semi-star level of top talents. It may be a good choice to kill part of his combat power in advance. Jia Yan's reason for punishing him was completely valid. As a star-level powerhouse, no matter what genius he faced, if he couldn't guarantee even a little dignity, it would be an embarrassment to the entire star-level team. Very good, Jia Yan, you are actually playing dirty tricks. The Western bandit stood up. Duo Jian's injury was not too serious, but it would definitely affect this genius exchange battle. This impact can be big or small. If just because of this difference in combat power, the Stellar Academy does not win this exchange battle beautifully, maybe the Stellar Academy's plan to overwhelm the genius battlefield in one fell swoop will be affected. So as one of the stellar leaders this time, how could he not be angry? I'm not playing dirty tricks. It was Duo Jian who said the challenge. Otherwise, if you want me to be a stellar star powerhouse, would you be afraid of fighting? Jia Yan sneered. Very good, you are not afraid of fighting, right? Okay, now I challenge you to. We will have a game after the genius exchange competition. Do you dare? Don't tell me, you think I bully you, a new star player. And don't dare to fight. The West Bandit's aura suddenly increased, and then he stared at Jia Yan, almost completely suppressing his aura on Jia Yan. That's right, if you have the guts to hurt me, a genius in the stellar academic field, you won't have the guts to accept the challenge from my senior in the stellar academic field. The genius battlefield is full of incompetent creatures like you. No wonder they lose to our stellar academy. Beside the Western bandits, geniuses in the stellar academic field mocked Jia Yan as much as they could. It seems that Jia Yan must not dare to fight. After all, in their eyes, Jia Yan is just a newly promoted star, and the aura of being newly promoted is very obvious about him. Even after promotion, it may not come for a year. To put it bluntly, such a star level is only limited in strength compared to some pseudo-stellar levels, let alone compared with the strong players who have been at the star level for a long time. But what surprised them was that Jia Yan didn't show any fear, and Long Ta next to him looked at Jia Yan and also smiled lightly. You want to challenge me too? Haha, it just so happens that Mr. Electric Ghost of your star domain has also challenged me. It's not much more than you. Come on, I accept the challenge. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1265. What? Challenge accepted. A creature that has entered the star for the first time may not even understand the realm, yet it dares to accept the challenge of a strong person who has been in the star for a long time. Did I hear you correctly? The genius creatures in the stellar field looked at Jia Yan in disbelief as he spoke. Even the Western bandit looked at Jia Yan in shock. This new star-level creature still seems to him to be incomparable. Because in his memory, the little giant mosquito who was able to fight Duo Jian and even draw a tie was at most a high-level talent. Duo Jian became a top genius because he mastered the methods of the rich. At that time, he didn't care about the little giant mosquito at all, because it was impossible for this little mosquito to catch up with a top genius. Although Duo Jian didn't know why, after returning to the stellar academic field, he was not able to compete with Jia Yan was very concerned about finishing that battle, but he didn't care. But what is shocking is that when this giant mosquito, which he was not optimistic about at all, appeared in front of him and Duo Jian again, he not only surpassed Duo Jian, but even reached the same level as him, stellar level. He actually agreed to my challenge, and said that the electric ghost also asked him to fight. The bandit felt that he might have missed some information, but no matter what, how could he be afraid of the existential challenge of a newcomer to the star? Very good. Since you agree, Let's wait for the geniuses to finish their battle and then let's have a good time making gestures. The Western bandit didn't say much more, but turned around and wrapped the unconscious Duo Jian with the power of his brain waves, and took him away from where Jia Yan and others were. Haha, Jia Yan, you did a good job. That Duo Jian was looking for death, and instead of looking for someone, he actually found trouble with the stellar powerhouse Luo Beiju. Obviously didn't know about the relationship between Jia Yan and Luo Beiju. People who are celebrating the holidays at this moment thought that Duo Jian, a genius in the stellar academic field, was just having fun. Haha, you can't say that. If I were Duo Jian, I might have the same reaction as him. Longta smiled beside him, and then explained the past events between Jia Yan and Duo Jian. It turns out that there is such a past. Speaking of which, Jia Yan at that time was actually a being who might not even be able to defeat such a tough person. Now he has actually reached this point. Even a top genius can't. Are you so far behind? Even though Luo Beiju had known Jia Yan's talent and promotion speed for a long time, he was shocked when he saw an example again, even this time the comparison between a top genius and him. Of course, the geniuses around them looked at each other speechlessly at Jia Yan's talent. Facing the senior who was younger than them, they really didn't know how to feel, so they could only smile bitterly. Fortunately, as for the genius battlefield, because Jia Yan is on their side, even if their mentality wavers, it will not be as shaken as the geniuses in the Stellar Academy. The appearance of Jia Yan, and the fact that he even injured Na Duojian with one blow, made many geniuses in the stellar academic field suddenly pay attention to Jia Yan, the star-level powerhouse in the genius battlefield who suddenly appeared. And under their attention, the news about Jia Yan's talent and strength finally spread like an explosion. This, you are not talking in your sleep, are you? This stellar powerhouse named Jia Yan was actually a sage more than 10 years ago. Impossible. What kind of promotion speed? It took more than 10 years to break through to the stellar level. There has never been such a genius in the history of our stellar academic field. Listen, the geniuses in the genius battlefield are all saying that Jia Yan is a monster-level genius. Why can their genius battlefield produce such a genius? There seems to be no monster-level genius in our stellar academic field. Geniuses in stellar academic fields, whether top or advanced, were all shocked by Jia Yan's talent. They were completely in disbelief. They had just thought that the newly emerged star-level warrior in the genius battlefield was just an ordinary genius promoted. Now they actually found out that the senior was actually younger than most of them. A monster-level genius creature. He is not even 40 years old, but he has already reached the stellar level. Has such a genius ever appeared in the stellar academic field before? No. Not to mention geniuses close to him, even those under the age of 60 at the stellar level have never appeared in the stellar academic field. Oh my god, there is such a guy coming to our Sidereal Academy. In this genius exchange competition, no matter whether our Sidereal Academy loses or wins, we will lose. Facing Jia Yan, the geniuses in the entire stellar academic field were shocked and speechless for a long time. A genius battlefield creature younger than them has reached the star level, but they are still claiming to be top geniuses, and even have to fight under the supervision of the other party as a senior. This feeling really makes people feel desperate. On this day, the creatures on the entire battle star were not only not excited for the upcoming battle, but instead felt strange in their hearts. Because they claim to be the geniuses of the two major star regions, but in the team as seniors, there is actually a strong man who is younger than them and not much stronger. This feeling is definitely not something that can be calmed down in a short time. Of course, a genius is a genius after all, and they can only treat the appearance of Jia Yan as a legend. Anyway, no matter how talented he is and reaches stellar strength, he can't go out and fight them, right? Moreover, Jia Yan also offended two stellar seniors in their academic field. He might be taught a lesson by the two seniors in their academic field next. Although it is impossible to cause death, it can definitely make the stellar students learn a lesson. He is a genius in the field and can greatly relieve the uncomfortable feeling in his heart. The battle between Jia Yan and the electric ghost was also known to all living beings after Jia Yan's name spread. All the creatures, including those from the genius battlefield, couldn't help but sigh, this Jia Yan is really capable of causing trouble. He had just arrived in the Stellar Academy and had established a firm foothold with Jia Yan, and he actually had a fight with two powerful warriors at the stellar level. If his ability to cause trouble hadn't improved so quickly, he might have died before. In particular, a group of geniuses from the genius battlefield thought of the legend about Jia Yan. To them, the legend sounded like a history of hardships and dangers. It's no wonder that Jia Yan's strength has improved so quickly, otherwise he would have definitely died long ago. Is this guy going to start causing a bloody storm in the stellar level just after reaching the stellar level? Even Luo Beiju made such a joke to Longta. Unexpectedly, Longta smiled bitterly and shook his head at him. He has already caused a bloody storm in the stellar class. Have you forgotten the stellar class who died in his hands in the Northern Star territory? It's true. You just remembered that he had killed a star before, and that's why you agreed to the fight. Luo Beiju was stunned for a moment, and then let out a long sigh. That's right, according to the video data, Jia Yan had just reached the star level, and maybe his strength was not stable before he killed an outside star level. Now that so much time has passed, his strength must have improved again. That's why I asked him to fight. Even if there is still a certain gap between him and the Western bandits, at least he can save his life. Longta wanted to say that Jia Yan would not lose, but considering the time of Jia Yan's promotion, he was more conservative. As a person who has watched Jia Yan grow up all the way, he had a vague feeling in his heart that Jia Yan would surprise them again this time. However, he did not express this idea. Time passed quickly. After barely surviving a day's rest in the huge residence of the battle star of the Stellar Academy, people from the Stellar Academy came to the door again, inviting talented battlefield players and stellar powerhouses to the outside world. Today we are going to start a preliminary battle. This time you have sent 65 geniuses, and we have also sent 10 top geniuses and 55 high-level geniuses to fight. Do you have any opinions? The Western bandit stood in the sky, as if yesterday's holiday with Jia Yan never happened. But when he glanced at Jia Yan's position, he couldn't help but feel a flash of fear and apprehension. After returning to his residence yesterday, the electric ghost came to his place and solemnly told him about the previous battle with Jia Yan. This made the Western bandits a little surprised by Jia Yan's strength. After all, it was extremely rare for a guy who had just reached the star level to reach Jia Yan's strength. However, he is still calm now because the strength shown by Jia Yan when fighting the electric ghost is not very strong. You must know that the fighting power of the Western bandits is much stronger than that of the electric ghost in this stellar academic field. Since the electric ghost Gitu said that he was sure to defeat Jia Yan, so he didn't have to worry. Do you think that because you are so talented, you can be in the star level? This time I want to show you that the star level is not as simple as you think. While presiding over the affairs of the Genius War, the Western bandit stared at Jia Yan fiercely. He even made a decision, that is, if there is any chance in the challenge match with Jia Yan, if he can use a certain death blow to kill Jia Yan, a person with endless talent at the constant breath level, he will definitely give it a try. If the genius battlefield wants to launch an attack, the Stellar Academy will protect itself, right? Of course, you have to find opportunities. Oh, does this guy want to do something to me? Does he think he's afraid of me? If he wants to kill me, just give it a try. Jia Yan had so many life and death battles, and he felt it immediately after the other party showed a hint of killing intent towards him. However, Jia Yan was not too frightened. Even this time, he was not so afraid of the power of the entire stellar academic field, otherwise he would not be so high profile in the stellar academic field. After all, even if the Stellar Academy is powerful, in fact their most powerful one is only the intermediate stellar. Even if there is an intermediate stellar that is more powerful than Huoku, it is still only too powerful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1266. Welcome. Please remember the address of this website, read on your mobile phone so that you can read the latest chapter of the novel Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky at any time. Jia Yan was able to escape from the living channel when he was less than a star level. Now that his strength has reached the stellar level, and with the presence of the Edisha equipped with a space ejection method in subspace, as long as he is not surrounded by a group of midstellar creatures, he is sure to escape. So why doesn't he dare to be high profile? Jia Yan himself sees the distrust of genius battlefield towards Jia Yan, so whether it is life or reputation, he will protect it all. Now Jia Yan has the confidence and strength. Okay, this time the competition will be spread to all directions in our stellar academic field, and even some media will broadcast it in the surrounding star fields. I hope that the players on both sides will compete well and show their strength. After the Western Bandit said all this, he led the creatures on both sides to fly into the sky. That's right, the entire battle star will be the venue during the genius battle, and the stellar referees will all arrive in the universe to observe the battle and commentate there. In the starry sky, there have long been creatures from countless stellar realms. They seem to have a very grand organization arranging everything for them. Even the battleships were neatly arranged and arranged regularly. This is the biggest characteristic of geniuses in the stellar academic field. Their talents cannot reach the peak, but each one has good organization. If they form an army, it will be terrifying. Longta saw that Jia Yan was paying great attention to the creatures from the Stellar Academy who were watching the battle around him, so he opened his mouth to explain. Their training method has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that there will be more geniuses who achieve star level than our genius battlefield. After all, our battlefield has a lot of geniuses internally consumed. Another advantage is that the geniuses they train are all good soldiers. As for the disadvantage, it is very difficult for these geniuses to reach a higher level, and it is also very difficult for their talents to be fully utilized. This is why they have trained more stars than us, but they can finally reach the star level. There are fewer people in the later period than those who graduated from the genius battlefield, and there is no reason why even those who have been promoted to the galaxy have not appeared. Jia Yan listened to Longta's explanation and nodded with his heart moving slightly. Jia Yan can find a metaphor for the standardized training method, which is that a few decades ago, Chinese students were said to be the best at taking exams. Every student was well behaved, but when it came to work, they were ridiculed by foreign countries for not having autonomy and creativity. Thinking, this is the disadvantage of standardized examinations. Of course, both sides have their own advantages, and there is no saying that one is better or the other is worse. When they reached the starry sky, countless genius creatures around them pointed at the group of stellar powerhouses here. After reaching stellar strength, everyone's sense organs are very powerful, so they can hear most of these geniuses talking about Jia Yan. This being from the genius battlefield is actually a terrifying genius whose talent reaches the level of a monster. If it were just people from the genius battlefield who said it, they in the Stellar Academy would probably say it was bragging, but unfortunately, there are several geniuses in the Stellar Academy who have come into contact with Jia Yan, especially Duo Jian. The genius who is famous in the field of stellar learning even fought with Jia Yan once, but this time, he couldn't even withstand the impact of Jia Yan's brainwave power. This made the stellar academic field, which had never seen any evil geniuses, Extremely sensational. Heh, Jia Yan, it seems that you almost have a fan team in this stellar academic field. Long to joke to Jia Yan. Jia Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head. In fact, he also knew that in the genius battlefield, there had long been his so-called fan group and even the founder. He could vaguely sense that it was inseparable from Zibala. But Jia Yan can't tell others not to like him, can he? So it was up to her. Unexpectedly, he heard many words of admiration for him in this stellar academic field, and there seemed to be signs of becoming a fan. Humph, okay, you geniuses, listen to me. In the next battle, be merciful if you can, especially in our stellar academic field. The genius battlefield has been young and unreliable these days. If you win this time, you will win. Don't do it again. I miss someone and hurt someone, otherwise their genius war zone will cause trouble for our Ministry of Foreign Affairs again. The cold snort of the bandit interrupted the banter between Jia Yan and Long Ta. Just like the rumors from the outside world, this time in the genius battlefield team, there is a star like Jia Yan who has covered up all the brilliance. No matter whether the genius battlefield exchange match is won or lost, the stellar school loses. After all, if you want to cover up Jia Yan's brilliance, you need to find a genius who can compare with Jia Yan, but where can you find one in the stellar academic field? The first is the Lord-level battle. We adopt a circular battle. This is also a fighting method that can show the strength of a genius. Each side sent 25 venerable level geniuses. Within this level, each had 3 top-notch geniuses, and the others were all high-level talents. Okay, the fluctuation caused by your battle is not large, so let's all go down below and start fighting. Each of you will draw lots and choose a random battle environment. The Western bandits spoke lightly to the 2 groups of venerable level creatures, and then in the starry sky, a huge lottery box appeared in front of the 2 groups of creatures. The venerable level creatures stepped forward to draw the signature slip and flew to the location marked on the slip. Soon, the creatures that were also marked at the same location started fighting. The style of this stellar academic field is actually like this. Jia Yan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw the battle scene below from high in the sky. That's right, people from the Hung Seeing Academy have a good routine in every battle. Their basic skills are very solid. This is also the strength brought by the unique educational environment. However, such strength also suppresses their creativity. As long as they can hide by attacking through their routines, you can easily find their weaknesses and defeat them. Luo Beija seemed to have a good understanding of the weaknesses of the creatures in the stellar domain. He stood aside and gave Jia Yan a few words of advice. There seemed to be a hint in his words, which was for Jia Yan to prepare for the battle with the 2 stars in the next few days. Yes, I understand, Jia Yan nodded. To be honest, the battle at the venerable level can no longer arouse any interest from the powerful people at the stellar level. Jia Yan only saw their general style through these tiny creatures, and then didn't care about so many things, because no matter how he looked, it was impossible to see anything nutritious. As expected, my stellar academic field is stronger. Although your genius battlefield focuses on personal development, in fact, the basic skills of fighting are not solid. If you don't have unique moves in battle, you will lose completely. History it proves that our field of stellar science is the right path. The Western bandit stood aside and saw the progress of the battle below, and then smiled slightly proudly. I disagree with this. Your stellar academic field considers itself to be the right path, but why hasn't there been a monster-level genius in so many years? In our genius battlefield, although not many have appeared in the past 200,000 years, there are several monster-level geniuses, and even Jia Yan now. Tell me, what is there in the stellar academic field? Longta shook his head and scoffed. Anyway, I have been in your genius battlefield. Now it seems that if your genius battlefield didn't have an excellent environment, it would be impossible to compete with my stellar academic field. Jia Yan's appearance is probably the same as the cultivation of your battlefield has nothing to do with it. Am I wrong? With the living example of Jia Yan in front of them, the Western bandits really had no way to refute, so they had no choice but to bite the bullet and express their opinions. There is no doubt that a stellar battle is unfolding now. Confrontation is not necessarily a battle sometimes, and the skill of the mouth can sometimes play a great role. Zibe, what you said is wrong. I think the support given to me by War Domain has been very helpful. Without War Domain, I wouldn't be where I am now. But if I had joined your Stellar Academy, I would still be at a lower level now. Luckily it's not your side who joined. Jia Yan interrupted at the right moment. The Western bandit was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood after hearing this. But he has no reason to refute yet. Should he say that Jia Yan can become a monster by joining the stellar academic field? This is simply impossible. So he stopped talking and just watched the battle below. On the other side of the starry sky, there was a star-level expert from the stellar academic field. As the commentator this time, he explained the battle below the battle star with spittle. Every environment in the battle is actually carefully simulated, such as the volcanic terrain, where volcanoes are constantly erupting, and the two noble-level creatures fighting here are miserable. The same is true for the combat environment in the ocean. Two venerable-level creatures kept fighting into the sea, and then due to the resistance of the sea water, the battle was not so smooth, and even errors occurred. But generally speaking, the strength shown by the creatures in the stellar academic domain that have been taught in various environments at this time is almost comprehensive. In other words, the venerable level geniuses in the genius battle domain, whether they are top talents or advanced talents, they all suffered a lot. In this game, number 8 from the Hung Seeing Academy wins. The two sides will draw lots and go to the next competition venue. In this match, Genius Battlefield number 21 wins. The two warring parties will draw lots and go to. The commentator continued to explain, and then each of the sage-level geniuses did not even have time to rest. After fighting in one area, they had to draw lots and rush to the next area to fight. This is a round-robin battle, and each genius has to fight against the opponent's 25 people. In fact, this is also a test of character. If you are ranked against an extremely difficult opponent, even if you win, after consuming a lot of physical energy, the next opponent will obviously win easily, but because of the decline in strength, he will not be able to win. Lost. Under such chaotic circumstances, the battle seemed tense, but also unfolded wonderfully. Okay, this is the end of the venerable level competition. Now, Ji now will summarize the points. First place, a strong one in the stellar field, Ruby. The second place is Tiansu, a strong person in the field of stellar studies. Third place, genius in the battlefield, Ximen Lai. Jia Yan was able to escape from the living channel when he was less than a star level. Now that his strength has reached the stellar level, and with the presence of the Edisha equipped with a space ejection method in subspace, as long as he is not surrounded by a group of mid-stellar creatures, he is sure to escape. So why doesn't he dare to be high profile? Jia Yan himself sees the genius battlefield's distrust of Jia Yan, so whether it's life or reputation, he will protect it all. Now Jia Yan has the confidence and strength. Okay, this time the competition will be spread to all directions in our stellar academic field, and even some media will broadcast it in the surrounding star fields. I hope that the players on both sides will compete well and show their strength. After the Western bandit said all this, he led the creatures on both sides to fly into the sky. That's right, the entire battle star will be the venue during the genius battle, and the stellar referees will all arrive in the universe to observe the battle and commentate there. In the starry sky, there have long been creatures from countless stellar realms. They seem to have a very grand organization arranging everything for them. Even the battleships were neatly arranged and arranged regularly. This is the biggest characteristic of geniuses in the stellar academic field. Their talents cannot reach the peak, but each one has good organization. If they form an army, it will be terrifying. Longta saw that Jia Yan was paying great attention to the creatures from the Stellar Academy who were watching the battle around him, so he opened his mouth to explain. Their training method has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that there will be more geniuses who achieve star level than our genius battlefield. After all, our battlefield has a lot of geniuses internally consumed. Another advantage is that the geniuses they train are all good soldiers. As for the disadvantage, it is very difficult for these geniuses to reach a higher level, and it is also very difficult for their talents to be fully utilized. This is why they have trained more stars than us, but they can finally reach the star level. There are fewer people in the later period than those who graduated from the genius battlefield, and there is no reason why even those who have been promoted to the galaxy have not appeared. Jia Yan listened to Longta's explanation and nodded with his heart moving slightly. Jia Yan can find a metaphor for the standardized training method, which is that a few decades ago, Chinese students were said to be the best at taking exams. Every student was well behaved, but when it came to work, they were ridiculed by foreign countries for not having autonomy and creativity. Thinking, this is the disadvantage of standardized examinations. Of course, both sides have their own advantages, and there is no saying that one is better or the other is worse. When they reached the starry sky, countless genius creatures around them pointed at the group of stellar powerhouses here. After reaching stellar strength, everyone's sense organs are very powerful, so they can hear most of these geniuses talking about Jia Yan. This being from the genius battlefield is actually a terrifying genius whose talent reaches the level of a demon. If it were just people from the genius battlefield who said it, they in the Stellar Academy would probably say it was bragging, but unfortunately, there are several geniuses in the Stellar Academy who have come into contact with Jia Yan, especially Duo Jian. The genius who is famous in the field of stellar learning even fought with Jia Yan once, but this time, he couldn't even withstand the impact of Jia Yan's brainwave power. This made the stellar academic field, which had never seen any evil geniuses, extremely sensational. Heh, Jia Yan, it seems that you almost have a fan team in this stellar academic field. Longta joked to Jia Yan. Jia Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head. In fact, he also knew that in the genius battlefield, there had long been his so-called fan group and even the founder. He could vaguely sense that it was inseparable from Zibala. But Jia Yan can't tell others not to like him, can he? So it was up to her. Unexpectedly, he heard many words of admiration for him in this stellar academic field, and there seemed to be signs of becoming a fan. Humph, okay, you geniuses, listen to me. In the next battle, be merciful if you can, especially in our stellar academic field. The genius battlefield has been young and unreliable these days. If you win this time, you will win. Don't do it again. I missed someone and hurt someone, otherwise their genius war zone will cause trouble for our Ministry of Foreign Affairs again. The cold snort of the bandit interrupted the banter between Jia Yan and Longta. Just like the rumors from the outside world, this time in the genius battlefield team, there is a star like Jia Yan who has covered up all the brilliance. No matter whether the genius battlefield exchange match is won or lost, the stellar school loses. After all, if you want to cover up Jia Yan's brilliance, you need to find a genius who can compare with Jia Yan, but where can you find one in the stellar academic field? The first is the Lord-level battle. We adopt a circular battle. This is also a fighting method that can show the strength of a genius. Each side sent 25 venerable level geniuses. Within this level, each had 3 top-notch geniuses, and the others were all high-level talents. Okay, the fluctuation caused by your battle is not large, so let's all go down below and start fighting. Each of you will draw lots and choose a random battle environment. The Western bandits spoke lightly to the 2 groups of venerable level creatures, and then in the starry sky, a huge lottery box appeared in front of the two groups of creatures. The venerable level creatures stepped forward to draw the signature slip and flew to the location marked on the slip. Soon, the creatures that were also marked at the same location started fighting. The style of this stellar academic field is actually like this. Jia Yan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw the battle scene below from high in the sky. That's right, people from the Hongxing Academy have a good routine in every battle. Their basic skills are very solid. This is also the strength brought by the unique educational environment. However, such strength also suppresses their creativity. As long as they can hide by attacking through their routines, you can easily find their weaknesses and defeat them. Luo Beija seemed to have a good understanding of the weaknesses of the creatures in the stellar domain. He stood aside and gave Jia Yan a few words of advice. There seemed to be a hint in his words, which was for Jia Yan to prepare for the battle with the two stars in the next few days. Yes, I understand, Jia Yan nodded. To be honest, the battle at the venerable level can no longer arouse any interest from the powerful people at the stellar level. Jia Yan only saw their general style through these tiny creatures, and then didn't care about so many things, because no matter how he looked, it was impossible to see anything nutritious. As expected, my stellar academic field is stronger. Although your genius battlefield focuses on personal development, in fact, the basic skills of fighting are not solid. If you don't have unique moves in battle, you will lose completely. History it proves that our field of stellar science is the right path. The Western bandit stood aside and saw the progress of the battle below, and then smiled slightly proudly. I disagree with this. Your stellar academic field considers itself to be the right path, but why hasn't there been a monster-level genius in so many years? In our genius battlefield, although not many have appeared in the past 200,000 years, there are several monster-level geniuses, and even Jia Yan now. Tell me, what is there in the stellar academic field? Longda shook his head and scoffed. Anyway, I have been in your genius battlefield. Now it seems that if your genius battlefield didn't have an excellent environment, it would be impossible to compete with my stellar academic field. Jia Yan's appearance is probably the same as the cultivation of your battlefield has nothing to do with it. Am I wrong? With the living example of Jia Yan in front of them, the Western bandits really had no way to refute, so they had no choice but to bite the bullet and express their opinions. There is no doubt that a stellar battle is unfolding now. Confrontation is not necessarily a battle sometimes, and the skill of the mouth can sometimes play a great role. Zibe, what you said is wrong. I think the support given to me by War Domain has been very helpful. Without War Domain, I wouldn't be where I am now. But if I had joined your Stellar Academy, I would still be at a lower level now. Luckily it's not your side who joined. Jia Yan interrupted at the right moment. The Western bandit was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood after hearing this. But he has no reason to refute yet. Should he say that Jia Yan can become a monster by joining the stellar academic field? This is simply impossible. So he stopped talking and just watched the battle below. On the other side of the starry sky, there was a star-level expert from the stellar academic field. As the commentator this time, he explained the battle below the battle star with spittle. Every environment in the battle is actually carefully simulated, such as the volcanic terrain, where volcanoes are constantly erupting, and the two noble-level creatures fighting here are miserable. The same is true for the combat environment in the ocean. Two venerable-level creatures kept fighting into the sea, and then due to the resistance of the sea water, the battle was not so smooth, and even errors occurred. But generally speaking, the strength shown by the creatures in the stellar academic domain that have been taught in various environments at this time is almost comprehensive. In other words, the venerable level geniuses in the genius battle domain, whether they are top talents or advanced talents, they all suffered a lot. In this game, number 8 from the Hongxing Academy wins. The two sides will draw lots and go to the next competition venue. In this match, Genius Battlefield number 21 wins. The two warring parties will draw lots and go. The commentator continued to explain, and then each of the sage-level geniuses did not even have time to rest. After fighting in one area, they had to draw lots and rush to the next area to fight. This is a round-robin battle, and each genius has to fight against the opponent's 25 people. In fact, this is also a test of character. If you are ranked against an extremely difficult opponent, even if you win, after spending a lot of energy, the next opponent will obviously win easily, but because of the decline in strength, he will not be able to win. Lost. Under such chaotic circumstances, the battle seemed tense, but also unfolded wonderfully. Okay, this is the end of the venerable level competition. Now, Ji now will summarize the points. First place, a strong one in the stellar field, Ruby. The second place is Tiansu, a strong person in the field of stellar studies. Third place, genius in the battlefield, Ximen Lai. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1267. The results of the venerable level competition came out, and as expected, the Stellar Academy completely dominated the field. Among the top 10, there are only 3 sages from the genius battlefield, while the opponent has 7. From this point, it can be seen that genius battlefield is completely at a disadvantage. Oh, the genius battlefield is really full of geniuses. This time in the venerable level division, we were able to get 3 top 10 places. It's amazing, it's amazing. In the starry sky where many stars stood proudly, the Western bandit could hardly help but smile, and made a faint sarcasm to the surrounding star-level experts in the genius battlefield. Western bandits, do you understand that you keep your mouth shut? Your stellar academic field has also experienced a period of silence, but our genius battlefield did not treat you like this. Oh? Has our stellar academic field ever experienced a state of silence? Why didn't I know? You are ignorant, of course you won't know. Longta and the Western bandits seem to have stopped dealing with each other a long time ago, and now they started to argue tit for tat with him. Jia Yan didn't think about it that much. He just looked at the Lord-level battle below and fell into deep thought. As expected, they are worthy of being from the Stellar Academy. After a long period of training, their combat routines have added too much to their combat strength. After a long time, Jia Yan sighed with bright eyes. The stellar academic field and the genius battlefield actually follow 2 different training systems, and the 2 sides have nothing in common. However, compared to the genius battlefield, even if Jia Yan is unwilling to admit it, he agrees that the Stellar Academy will be more powerful in the future. Because the laissez-faire cultivation method of the genius battlefield has too high requirements for the genius self, the stellar academic field is different. It is a completely active cultivation method. This puts most geniuses at the same level. Of course, the result is super. It is not easy for top-notch talents to appear. Okay, next is a battle of sub-level geniuses. The number of geniuses sent by each side is 10. Same rules. You all can go down. After the Western bandit won the venerable level battle in the Stellar Academy, he almost wanted to write the word proud on his face, and his whole sheep's head was almost anthropomorphic with a smile. In other words, in addition to the comparative weaknesses of the venerable level, the contestants in this academic field this time are stronger than the previous ones at the second level and semi-star level. I didn't expect that the venerable level would also win so easily. We defeated our opponents. It seems too powerful and there is nothing we can do about it. The intelligence department needs to review it. Faced with the pride of the Western bandits, none of the 3-star level geniuses on the genius battlefield side responded, because including Jia Yan, they all saw that the second level geniuses sent by the opponent were indeed relatively powerful players. The result of the battle was as expected. After another 3 days of reincarnation, Genius Battlefield was completely defeated. This time, most of the top 10 rankings were completely occupied by the opponent, with only 2 embarrassing rankings, 7th and 9th. Captured by the geniuses from the Genius Battlefield. Haha, is this the Genius Battlefield? Nothing more than that. When the first genius at that level said this with an almost disdainful expression, Longta and Luo Beiju were almost furious. However, Jia Yan is not that emotional. His relationship with Genius Battle is not as close as that between Longta and Luo Beiju. Next is the semi-star level competition. This is the key battle between our star field and the Genius Battlefield, because the half-star level represents the potential to advance to a star, and it also represents the potential between the 2 star fields. The contrast. Everyone in the audience, let us now see what kind of battle flames there are between the semi-star geniuses from the Genius Battlefield and our stellar academic field. The host delivered passionate commentary from high in the sky. Go ahead and don't put too much pressure on it. With a dark expression on his face, Longta spoke such words of encouragement to the semi-star genius who was about to fight. In every 2-star genius competition, the semi-star level competition is the top priority. Not only does this level have the most players, but it is also the most exciting. Even if the first 2 levels lose, the half-star level competition is the most important. If the star talent wins, it is still a victory. After all, the true potential of a genius lies in whether he can advance to a star. The first 2 levels are almost as infantile to a semi-star genius. Don't be intimidated by the guys from the stellar academic field. It's not like we haven't fought against their half-star geniuses, so what are we afraid of? On the Genius Battlefield side, a top genius encouraged his friends around him with a very solemn expression. There are only so many top geniuses who have come here, and there are only 3 top half-star geniuses in the Genius Battlefield. We can't embarrass our 3 seniors, let's work hard now. A group of talented battlefield geniuses landed on the battle star. The genius in the stellar academic field on the other side also fell to the ground. Come on, don't blame our stellar academic community for bullying you guests. The first venue selection starts with you. Among the geniuses in the stellar academic field on the other side, a top-notch talent said this to the geniuses on the Genius Battlefield. Humph, Pion. It seems that my opponent this time is you again. On the Genius Battlefield side, the top-end semi-star genius who took the lead in speaking before spoke with a cold expression. That's right --U003E/U003E. It's me again, and this time, you will be defeated by me like last time. The other party chuckled, seemingly disdainful of this top genius from Genius Battlefield. Arrogant. At the semi-star level, both sides actually know the basics. After all, not every genius is like Jia Yan and can quickly pass through several major levels. If their talents are similar, they will have more opportunities to fight in the past. So I know most of them. At this time, all the past grievances came to mind, and he stopped drawing lots. He found his old opponent, picked the venue, and started the battle directly. In the sky, Jia Yan and 2-star level experts from the Genius Battlefield were watching the battle below. Jia Yan, look at this competition, which aspect can get more top 10 seats? Longta came to Jia Yan and asked lightly. Jia Yan looked at him and saw that this strong man who was extremely excited before had completely controlled his demeanor. Astral level is worthy of being a star level, but in fact, his ability to control himself is so weak. The dispute with the Western bandit just now was just a show. Jia Yan shook his head. Senior, it's not that I don't trust the juniors in the genius field, but the geniuses in the Stellar Academy are indeed powerful. We may still lose this time. Yes, I understand. Longta sighed helplessly. That's why this time the team leaders will be 2 of us. After all, no one in the Genius Battlefield wants to come here and suffer. Longta seemed to have been prepared for the defeat in Genius Battlefield. But none of those old guys expected. Longta quickly turned his head and focused his eyes on Jia Yan. None of them expected you to appear. Jia Yan, I know you are not willing to fight for the genius battlefield, but I have helped you a few times. If you give me a face, you fight with 2-star level, I want you to fight us to win back the loser, you must win at least one game. That is the electric ghost game, can you win it? Jia Yan was startled. He didn't expect Longta to say this to him. It seemed that Longta didn't seem very angry on his expression, but deep down he still felt a little resentful that the genius he brought had lost to the stellar academic genius led by the Western bandits. Do you want to give Longta some face? Jia Yan thought for a while. Longta was not only the noble person who helped him go to the central area of the genius battlefield, but he was also the one who stepped forward to hold Huo Chu back when he was chasing him. After helping Jia Yan so much, should he refuse even his request? What's more, Jia Yan had no intention of letting go. Senior Longta, I would never miss this opportunity to fight against a star. I won't hold back even if you don't tell me. Jia Yan's words made De Longta smile slightly. The two of them did not continue on this topic, but simply watched the semi-stellar battle on the battle star. In fact, Longta didn't fully understand what Jia Yan meant. He thought that what Jia Yan said was to defeat the electric ghost with all his strength. But in fact, the meaning of Jia Yan's words was not just to defeat the electric ghost. So simple. Oh, this half-star genius in the genius battlefield is nothing more than that. The battle on the battle star was extremely fierce, but as Jia Yan said before, the geniuses in the genius battlefield seemed to be a little weaker. Even if they tried their best, they still could not reverse the defeat. 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. Finally, all the geniuses have completely completed the reincarnation competition. Even though the half-stars in the stellar domain have almost all the advantages, the geniuses in the genius battle domain are not completely powerless to fight back. Both sides fought badly. It's a pity that in terms of victory, the stellar academic field still has the advantage. The rankings are out. Now let's see, haha, the half-star geniuses in the genius battlefield are pretty good. They got 4 top 10 seats, and 3 more are in the top 5. Unfortunately, the total number of people, our stellar academic field still wins. Now, and I can announce that the result of this exchange competition between the Stellar Academy and the Genius Battlefield is. The stellar host in the stellar academic field was about to announce the results of the genius battle between the two sides. But at this moment, a voice from Qing Lang stopped him from speaking. Wait. The owner of that voice flew forward while speaking. Oh. Your Excellency Jia Yan, who comes from the genius battlefield, I wonder what else you want to say. The stellar host in the stellar academic field seemed to have known that this would happen for a long time. At this time, he sarcastically turned his gaze in the direction of Jia Yan. Because he already knew that this newly promoted star from the genius battlefield was also a monster-level genius promoted by the genius battlefield. He wanted to challenge the stars from the stellar school in this genius exchange competition. Stellar-level powerhouse? However, he did not think that this so-called monster had any chance of winning. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1268. Under the spotlight, Jia Yan flew lightly. Ha, the genius battlefield side must be trying to pull some tricks. This stellar powerhouse must have come out to say that the rules are wrong or something. If you lose, you don't lose. It would be too embarrassing if they did this, right? Who knows, maybe, the genius battlefield is just such a place. The geniuses in the stellar academic field around them were all in the battleship, watching Jia Yan emerge. Most of them know that Jia Yan is a stellar genius from the genius battlefield, but the previous news about Jia Yan being a so-called monster was because the Stellar Academy did not want the news to be too public, so even if there is no blockade, They still use smear methods to say that Jia Yan is just trying to gain attention and exaggerate his talent, so that even if someone knows Jia Yan, they just look down on this stellar powerhouse. Isn't that the so-called genius battlefield monster senior? Haha, it made me laugh to death. They also said that he is a star level who is less than 40 years old. If he is less than 40 years old, then I must be less than 2 years old. His Holiness. 6666, if he is less than 40 years old, I am less than 1 year old. Mom, I want to eat baby food, ha ha ha. Jia Yan's reputation is completely bad among the geniuses in the stellar academic field who know him. But at this time, he didn't care so much. After all, this was his territory. If he wanted Genius Battlefield to naturally spread his reputation here, he might not be able to do so in hundreds of years, so he didn't bother to waste his words. Everything, speak with reality. Your Excellency holding the Deng, there have been many exchange competitions between you and me for geniuses below the stellar level recently. I think this time, we can allow the geniuses to see real strong men fighting. There is no harm in opening their eyes. You say yes. The host was the lamp holder in Jia Yan's mouth. At this moment, he looked at Jia Yan calmly. As someone who knew the inside story, he certainly understood what Jia Yan was here to do. Oh, then Your Excellency Jia Yan, is this why you flew out? That's right, I came here to fulfill the engagement I made with 2-star level friends in your star field. It just allows the geniuses on both sides to see the star level battle, and it also opens their eyes. I don't know what you want. How about the next one? Jia Yan's words were plain yet full of confidence, making the lamp holder almost feel uncomfortable. Ha, okay. Why not? But Sir Jia Yan, I heard that your strength has just arrived at the star, and you have not even comprehended the power of the domain. With such strength, if you want to fight against our 2-star level powerhouses, wouldn't you? Do you think it's a bit forced? He glanced at Jia Yan with a lamp, and still thinks that Jia Yan is trying to please others. With this kind of strength, he didn't think Jia Yan would win at all. Neither of the 2 stellar battles can be won. And if he loses, Jia Yan can argue that his strength is not yet stable, and the Hung Seeing Academy cannot use this victory to create a breakthrough in public opinion to suppress the genius field. If he really wanted to fight, he would like Longta or Luo Beija from the genius battlefield to fight, so that if the side of the Hung Seeing Academy won, there would be a public opinion war. But it was obvious that neither Longta nor Luo Beija was prepared to fight. Since Your Excellency holding the Deng agrees, then come out. Your Excellency Dengui. Hearing that the other host agreed, Jia Yan turned to a certain battleship in the starry sky, and then issued a faint challenge. Not long after he spoke, a figure quickly flew out of the huge battleship that was more than 5,000 kilometers away from Jia Yan. His whole body was surrounded by electric light, and his slender body was like a lightning flashing with electric sparks, fast and full of Ling Li's aura. Jia Yan, I didn't expect that you would really dare to challenge me. Didn't I defeat you with just a few moves before and let you swell? The body of the electric ghost came to Jia Yan like an electric light. This speed was so fast that even Jia Yan became slightly solemn. Obviously, in the previous battle outside the Stellar Academy, the opponent did not use all his strength. Dengguidano, if I am inflated, let's see with my true strength. Jia Yan sneered. No matter what the other party's strength was hiding, he was definitely confident in his own strength and methods. This Jia Yan actually challenged the electric ghost seniors from our school. Senior electric ghost's electric field strength has even been praised by the mid-level star-level experts in our battlefield. Even if senior electric ghost has been promoted to star level for less than 30 years, it is not something that ordinary stars can defeat. Yes, this Jia Yan is definitely seeking death if he challenges Senior Electric Ghost. Death is impossible. After all, we have a friendly relationship with Genius Battlefield, but we cannot kill him. We must let this Jia Yan taste the pain. It is best to be disabled, so that he dares to challenge us to learn the strong man in the domain. Outside the circles of several major stellar exchanges, the ordinary geniuses in the stellar academic field who were watching the battle in the battleships were almost completely detonated. You must know that the battle between the super geniuses who visited the two major star fields before has made them excited, but now they did not expect that a battle between star levels actually appeared again. This can be said to be a grand event. You have to know how ordinary creatures have seen battles between stars. This kind of battle may be the best experience for future progress for talented people, and of course they are happy to see it. But they still ridicule Jia Yan. Even in the genius battlefield, they also have little trust in Jia Yan's participation. This, Master Jia Yan, will there be any problems when he fights with the opponent's star level? You must know that he is not even as old as us, and his combat experience is definitely not as good as the opponent's. He has not even stabilized his realm. Can he win? Ask me, who am I to ask? But think about Senior Jia Yan's previous experience growing up in our genius battlefield. He seemed to be an extremely powerful cross-level combat genius from the beginning. Even in the later stages, he became more terrifying. There is also the experience of facing an intermediate star-level existence in the central area. I don't think your loss will be too ugly. Yes, I know the details of that mid-level star. That person is a star-level genius who graduated from our genius battlefield. Lord Jia Yan had not yet become a star at that time, but he was able to escape from the opponent's hands. With his current strength it's definitely much better than that time, so the loss won't be too disastrous. The geniuses on the genius battlefield side, even those who had been injured before, were now staring at the two warring parties. Go down. The electric ghost looked at Jia Yan from a distance and landed directly on the battle star. Jia Yan didn't say much, and also descended towards the surface of the battle star. For these two stars, a whole planet used as a battle terrain is not big at all, it can even be said to be a bit small. However, no one said that they could not fly out of the battle star when the battle was in full swing. Falling down now was just a matter of atmosphere. Coming to the sky above an area where magma is constantly flowing on the surface, two giant objects over 1 kilometer in size looked at each other indifferently from a distance of more than 10 kilometers. Jia Yan, to be honest, I didn't think you were from the genius battlefield a few days ago. I apologize for offending you. To everyone's surprise, the electric ghost apologized to Jia Yan first in the electric light. Jia Yan was also dumbfounded, because in his opinion, the other party should not have such an apologetic character. It doesn't matter, I was wrong too. Jia Yan didn't want to talk too much with the other party. Haha, thank you for your understanding, but, we are fighting just because of the misunderstanding that day, and we are fighting in front of a group of strong people below the star level, which seems too petty. So, why don't we have some bets? The electric ghost really has a purpose. Tell me, what do you want to bet on? Jia Yan had already vaguely guessed what the other party wanted. After all, he could see the other party's expression when he looked at the Edissa. My request is very simple, that is your aircraft. The electric ghost did not hide his desire for the Edissa, and on my side, the bet is the electric lightstone passed down from my family. How about it? If you agree, let's start fight. Electric lightstone, Jia Yan was startled. Just when he didn't know what the other party was talking about, Longta's almost rapid brainwave power reached Jia Yan's ears. Agree with him. Jia Yan, this electro-optical stone is related to the special skills of the starry electric eel clan. After the user swallows it, it can derive extremely powerful electro-optical properties. You are an evolved beast, and the effect may be increased. Hearing Longta's words, Jia Yan nodded in agreement without much hesitation. Okay, just as you said. I hope you lose, just don't break your promise. Humph, How could I break my promise in front of everyone? Let's fight. You will definitely lose. When the electric ghost saw that Jia Yan agreed, he changed his previous pleasant expression and moved his body. Puff! An extremely bright brilliance, like a terrifying giant blade cutting through the waves, struck hard in the direction of Jia Yan. Sure enough, this guy hid a lot of strength during the last confrontation. Jia Yanfu's eyes flashed. Then he retreated backwards, and his body entered the subspace before the opponent hit him. But, I also hide my strength. Jia Yan's retreat into the subspace did not seem to exceed the opponent's expectations. The electric ghost suddenly turned towards his side and curled his tail. The tail with an electric arc instantly appeared in that direction, and as promised, Jia Yan's faintly appearing figure was going to attack the electric ghost in this direction. You think that because you are a person with strong subspace talent, you can attack in and out without restraint? Die. His roll was about to wrap around Jia Yan's body at almost the moment of lightning. This guy's fighting talent is so strong. Jia Yan felt the electric ghost almost instantly. Compared with the first time he fought with him, he suddenly had more fighting methods against subspace creatures, and his demeanor changed slightly. But at the next moment, his front feet were like an arrow shot when the opponent's tail was curling. Regardless of his own body being caught by the opponent, he was hurt by the electric ghost's body covered with electric light. The thrust is coming? What? The electric ghost was completely frightened by Jia Yan's operation. Hey, Denki, you think you can hide your strength, but I can't. Puff. Please remember the first domain name of this book. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1269. The dark front feet were like sharp knives, piercing into the body that was shining with white light. A white blood stain bloomed in the universe. Although the electric ghost was not seriously injured, his demeanor changed drastically at this moment. Because he was injured, but he wrapped Jia Yan's tail around it, but it seemed to be a steel bone. He wrapped it around Jia Yan's torso, but it had no effect. There was a lot of lightning in the starry sky, but under the lightning, the surface of Jia Yan's body only flashed with a blue color, completely resisting the arc outside his body. The defense is so terrifying. Isn't his talent for subspace? Doesn't he also have a defensive talent? The electric ghost almost flew out of his mind. When he saw Jia Yan's other forefoot, he also started to exert force. He quickly took advantage of the attack to retract the tail wrapped around Jia Yan, then moved his body and ran away from where Jia Yan was. Direction. Fortunately, he escaped quickly, because at the moment he escaped, Jia Yan's other forefoot, carrying the strong wind, had already landed at the place where he was before, and was about to hit this person by just a hair. A stellar expert in the stellar academic field. What? Senior Denki was actually injured during this mutual attack. Impossible. Since the other party has shown subspace talent, why is the defense so strong? It's like a creature with defense talent. Could it be that he has two talents? A group of creatures from the stellar domain, whether they were geniuses at or below the stellar level, looked at Jia Yan standing proudly in the starry sky of the universe. Almost every one of them could not believe it. Because whether it is the Stellar Academy or the starry sky in the genius battlefield, almost every creature can only master one talent. Only a very unique race can master two major talents. Of course, regarding talent, each place has its own criteria for judging, but no matter which side of the judgment is used, Jia Yan's current spatial talent and the terrifying defensive power he has shown have reached the standard of racial talent. Haha, these people from the stellar academic field will slowly realize the terror of an evolved beast. When Longta saw the creatures around him, They were all shocked by a characteristic that Jia Yan showed casually, and shook his head with a wry smile. Because he knew that the strength displayed by Jia Yan, an evolutionary beast that had reached the stellar level, at this time was only a fraction of the terrifying strength he could display. If evolved beasts were the same as ordinary creatures, this race would not be so feared by other star regions. Long to aside in his heart, the terrifying nature of the evolved beasts finally began to show its hideous appearance even more than 20,000 light-years away. Next, this group of creatures from the stellar domain will see the terror of this race, and the name of the evolved beast will make the starry sky here tremble. It's a pity that it's too short for Jia Yan to reach the star level. If he is given another 10 or 8 years, he might even be able to defeat the Western bandits. Then it will be interesting. Long Ta also felt a little bit of regret in his heart, but of course there was also a certain degree of stability, because if Jia Yan could defeat the Western bandits, it meant that even he could defeat them. Then he didn't feel that he could control Jia Yan in this mission. Rock. You actually have two great talents. How dare you use your newly promoted strength to fight me? However, you are a genius, and so am I. Even if you have two great talents, your level is lower than mine. You will definitely lose. The injured electric ghost remained ruthless. He put a certain distance away from Jia Yan, and then bursts of arcs of electricity flashed across his body. This arc is so amazing that it can even reach the subspace. The entire space was completely hollow due to the torn apart by the astonishing electric arc. Defeat me now. The electric ghost rushed towards Jia Yan, and at the same time, a burst of extremely strong brainwave power exploded in his body, and the entire space was actually enveloped in the world of electricity. Field. Jia Yan had long been prepared to deal with the opponent's domain. When he saw the electric light around his body, he immediately reacted and stepped back, hoping to enter the subspace. Still want to escape? You can't escape this time. As a powerful star-level expert, how could he not have the ability to stop subspace? Seeing Jia Yan trying to escape into the subspace, Electric Ghost's entire body shook, and the arc suddenly exploded. Jia Yan felt that the space behind him was completely filled with terrifying electric light. It turns out that the Electric Ghost's electric light was able to briefly enter the subspace, and then passed through the subspace and quietly circled behind Jia Yan without Jia Yan noticing. He has been guarding against Jia Yan's use of subspace to avoid his own domain. Sure enough, no one in the stellar class can be underestimated. Jia Yan's heart was slightly shaken, the space behind him was sealed, and he was immediately completely trapped in the opponent's domain. Haha, enter my domain and you won't die. The electric ghost looked overjoyed and quickly started operating his field like crazy. The surrounding creatures watching the battle all felt the lightning in the starry sky. No one could see clearly the thousands in the field. Even several powerful star-level experts could only vaguely feel the movement inside, but could not see exactly what's going on inside. This Jia Yan is definitely doomed. Even if he has two major talents, if one star level enters the domain power of another star level, if there is no competing domain, defeat is only a matter of time. In the field of stellar science, several major stellar classes thought that Jia Yan must have lost. Humph, Jia Yan is lucky, otherwise it would be my turn to attack him, and he would lose his skin even if he died. The bandit was also among this group of stars, and his faint cold snort sounded in the starry sky. Oh! West Bandit, do you think Jia Yan will lose? Why don't we also make a bet? You bet that Jia Yan loses, and I bet that Jia Yan wins. The bet will be in the currency of your stellar academic field. How about 100 million credit coins? Longta's calm voice suddenly sounded in the West Bandit's ears, causing the goat-like creature to suddenly change his expression and twist away. In this situation, do you still think Jia Yan can win? I really don't know what kind of strength this newcomer has shown to make you agree so much. Just bet, if you want to give me 100 million, I will refuse. The West bandits would never think that Jia Yan could beat Electric Ghost. After all, Electric Ghost is also a star-level talent with high talent. His current strength is that he has been immersed in the star level for more than 10 years. Where is Jia Yan's company in the field? How can a newcomer who has not yet understood it defeat? But no matter how he looked at it, Longta's faint smile made him feel uncomfortable. Impossible, he is just pretending. When the domain is removed, what we will see will definitely be Jia Yan's defeat, or even his death. The bandit's cold expression looked more solemnly at the area where the two stars were fighting. As a star-level powerhouse who has not been promoted for too long, Dengui's full domain coverage is only about 300 kilometers, but this is enough for him to trap Jia Yan within it. Jia Yan, please surrender, otherwise I can't guarantee that you won't die here. Jia Yan felt that the surrounding space was completely transformed into an electric arc, and the power of this arc was at least 10 times more powerful than what the electric ghost cast to the outside world. Tiny sparks kept falling on him, but there was no way to break out any scars on the azure defense on his body. I thought. Jia Yan shook his head and walked toward the center of the field where the electric ghost was. A stellar powerhouse won't talk so much nonsense when fighting. It seems I was wrong. Dian Gui, if you can kill me and want to kill me, you can try it. Jia Yan walked slowly, and with the expression on the electric ghost's face as if he had really seen a ghost, he faced the electric arc between heaven and earth and approached the electric ghost's direction. Why can you block more than 10 times my arc power? You must be trying to hold on, go to hell. When Jia Yan arrived at a place less than 100 kilometers away from Electric Ghost quickly exploded its domain power again, and the power of the arc around Jia Yan immediately increased to a higher level. However, the field arcs he displayed did not affect Jia Yan's movements after making Jia Yan snort slightly and stagger his steps, and he came closer to him again. It seems that the defense is really strong, but do you think the domain is such a simple thing? I am in the domain, and my combat power is definitely much stronger. There is absolutely no way you can defeat me. Seeing that the long-distance fighting method could not bring any threat to Jia Yan, the electric ghost immediately moved and launched a sudden attack on Jia Yan. Jia Yan also raised his front foot and fought hard with the opponent. Throughout the starry sky, the crackling sound of electric arcs was even more alarming. It seems that the fighting situation inside is very fierce. This Jia Yan, without mastering the power of the field, is actually able to fight like this in other people's fields. It's amazing. It seems that his defense has a great bonus to electric energy. Otherwise, it would be impossible to defend against the electric ghost's electric field. But all this is useless. The power of a star-level strongman's field is not just to use the power of the field itself to attack others, but the body of the star-level strongman in the field will be added to an extremely astonishing level. The current strength of Electric Ghost is at least 5 times stronger than that in the outside world. If Jia Yan does not have the field ability to fight, there is no reason to win. Several stellar powerhouses in the stellar domain were discussing the battle between the two sides. None of them felt that Jia Yan had any backhand power. Even though it seemed like there was a fierce battle in the domain, it was probably the Electric Ghost playing tricks on Jia Yan. A new star-level powerhouse in the Genius battlefield. The field can strengthen the user's strength. This is the real reason why star-level powerhouses, not semi-star level powerhouses, nor pseudo-star level powerhouses, can shake them. Please remember the first domain name of this book. neoshu.com. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1270. Because of the existence of the realm, no matter how powerful the semi-star level is, no matter how close the pseudo-star level power is to the star, it is impossible to get close to a real star level, nor can it be defeated. The realm can be said to be a star level. The true essence of strength. And Jia Yan has no domain, which is like a tiger without teeth. Even though he is a stellar powerhouse, no one thinks he can defeat the electric ghost. Of course, except for the 2-star level existences, Longta and Lubihu. Puff 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 puff. Within the field, electric arcs continued to explode, and in conjunction with the electric ghost's attacks, hundreds of meters thick electric arcs continued to fall on Jiayan. But this arc is so powerful that there may even be a battleship here that will be hit to pieces by this high voltage arc. But when the arc of electricity fell on Jiayan, his blue defense seemed to be able to prevent electricity and was completely unable to penetrate his body. Why are you not injured? My electric arc looks like an electric arc, but it actually has extremely powerful physical attack power. You are actually able to completely defend against it? The electric ghost used his tail to collide with Jiayan's forefoot, but was knocked back. A hint of unconfidence finally appeared in his eyes. Even if he was fighting against a stellar mid-level master, he would have the confidence to force the opponent out of his field of use and could not use his body to resist his own field arc. But now he actually saw a star-level powerhouse that was lower than his own realm. Without mastering the field, he acted like a normal person in his own field, coming and going freely, as if there was no impact. Same. The electric ghost was shocked at this moment. Could it be that he has practiced in a fake field? No, this field is the unique talent of their race. It has always been one of the well-known fields of the large clans in this vast star field. It cannot be weak. The problem lies with Jiayan. You, what kind of racial creature are you? When Jiayan was attacked with his front foot again, Dengui's entire body seemed to turn into an electric light. Under the influence of a domain arc, he avoided the attack like lightning. But his demeanor has completely changed. Me? I'm from the Evolved Beast clan. Jiayan's compound eyes were faint, and he announced his home for the first time in this place of stellar academic field. The Evolved Beast clan. The electric ghost was shocked. He seemed to have heard of this name, but he seemed to have never heard of it. Although his memory was vague, the alarm bell rang in his heart when he heard the name of this race. This evolved beast family is definitely not a simple character. No. Even if it's difficult to deal with, his level is still lower than mine. There's no way I can lose. Soon Dengui gritted his teeth again. He decided that with the help of his domain, he could not lose to Jiayan. This blow will kill you. Suddenly, an extremely astonishing aura surged out of the field. It turned out that a terrifying electric light was condensed next to the electric ghost. The overall color of this electric light is blue, and there is a faint white light inside. Although he had never tried the power of this electric arc, Jiayan instantly understood that this was the strongest attack of the electric ghost. Have you come up with your trump card? Come on. Jiayan was currently enjoying the pleasure of fighting a star-level powerhouse. He was growing up like a flying star. Even though the opponent's move was somewhat dangerous, he didn't have much fear. Azure Defense gave Jiayan a big surprise. He originally thought that Azure Defense would stop being too powerful when it reached the star level. However, he did not expect that perhaps it was because Jiayan obtained the biochemical mediation stone optimization gene before being promoted. Even the blue defense has become more perfect. In other words, even if it reaches the stellar level, the blue defense is still beyond the current level of defense. So when he faced the strongest attack from the electric ghost, he did not retreat. Instead, he released an even more astonishing azure color all over his body. He was so powerful that he wanted to have a strongest versus strongest battle with the opponent. Puff 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 puff. Jiayan exerted his full spatial talent, and black cracks seemed to surge around his entire body. This was the prototype of the domain. Of course, it still needs to be tempered to be condensed, but there are some cracks. The influence of the opponent's arc field on Jiayan was reduced to the minimum. At the same time, his pair of front feet suddenly turned from blue to white at this moment, as if most of the power of Zhang Yian's defense was piled on this pair of front feet. Die. Seeing Jia Yan's change, the electric ghost's expression became even more solemn, and his whole body was impacted by the astonishing arc of electricity. The ferocious look in Jia Yanfu's eyes was also filled with murderous intent, and then he used all his strength to attack the stellar powerhouse in the opposite direction. At this moment, the two powerful men used almost all their strength. The difference is that Jia Yan's recovery power is so strong that it even improves while fighting, while the opponent's strength is used up and he no longer has the power to fight. Puff! In the sky, the entire field exploded with a shocking bright color. Suddenly there was a sun in the entire starry sky, causing the weak stellar academic genius to temporarily become blind. It's time to decide the winner. The electric ghost will definitely win. Of course, Dengui is a highly talented genius in my stellar academic field, and he has been in the stellar class for more than 10 years more than his opponent. He is certain to win. Now it depends on whether he can be merciful and spare Jia Yan life. Haha, in my opinion, the strength of the electric ghost is still not refined enough. If we accidentally miss and kill this Jia Yan, we will be very embarrassed. After all, in fighting, people will die. That's right, but Jia Yan is a monster-level genius, he will definitely be able to escape with his life, right, haha. Several stellar experts in the stellar field were laughing and chatting lightly. In their opinion, after the arc explosion passed, the person standing inside must be an electric ghost. I'm just afraid that the electric ghost will kill Jia Yan. This is a diplomatic issue, and Jia Yan seems to be very famous in the genius battlefield. It would be unsightly to cause any diplomatic friction, so now they are on one side while talking. He first gave Lan Ta and others standing aside a shot of stimulant, so that they could wait for possible casualties and calm down the anger of the other party. But what surprised them was that the two powerful men Lan Ta and Liu Bihu actually had the same faint smile. Everyone is right. In a battle of this level, the two star-level experts are both star-level experts who have just been promoted not too long ago. There must be a high possibility of failure. If there are any casualties, there can be no friction, let's understand each other. Luo Beiju laughed strangely. The frightened Lan Ta also smiled slightly. Yes, since your excellencies also believe that a mistake is inevitable, we can rest assured. Don't be angry later. The words of these two guys made a group of stellar experts in the stellar academic field feel stunned for a while. What's going on? We want to comfort them, but why do we seem to be comforted by their words in turn? Do they still think that the winner will be Jia Yan Buchan? And Jia Yan can also hurt the electric ghost? This is simply impossible. It seems that their genius battlefield has lost too much, losing to these two. There's something wrong with the guy's head. No matter what, just look at the result of the battle now. I hope they won't go crazy on the spot when they see the result. A group of stellar leaders in the field of stellar science were all confused about the attitude of Lan Ta and the two. Of course, they did not explore it too deeply. In short, after seeing the final result, they knew who would have the last laugh. The electric arc caused by the explosion lasted for 3 to 4 minutes, and even the surrounding interstellar space was completely eroded by two different forces, almost causing permanent changes in the landscape. And after a few minutes of waiting, the situation inside was finally revealed. All the creatures could see was that in the center of the battle, a creature had lost its breath of life forever and was floating quietly in the starry sky. In front of his body, another creature was also suspended quietly, as if it had also been seriously injured. This. Electric ghost? Electric ghost? Why don't you respond? Could it be? At this moment, the expressions of all the star-level experts in the stellar field changed drastically when they saw the eel-like creature that had lost its breath. The ordinary geniuses around him almost lost all their languages on the spot. What? The one who lost his breath was actually Denki Senpai? Denki Senpai was killed by the other party. This, Isn't this Jia Yan just a creature that has just been promoted to the star level? He doesn't even have a domain, but he can actually defeat the Electric Ghost Senior. No way. He must be cheating. On the side of the genius battlefield, a group of geniuses from the genius battlefield were also extremely shocked. Although they also knew what Jia Yan had done below the star level before, they did not expect this evildoer level. A genius, even at the stellar level, he is still so incredible. A mere newly promoted person was actually able to defeat a talented star-level expert who had been promoted for a longer period of time. It seems that this monster, after reaching the stellar level, still wants to write his legend. Longta and Luo Beiju, who were in front of the geniuses in the genius battlefield, looked at each other and smiled. As creatures who know the battle between Jia Yan and Kongping, they are certainly very confident in Jia Yan's battle. But just as the creatures were still standing in shock, it was Jia Yanchi. Jia Yan, you are so brave. You dare to kill me, a strong person from the stellar academic field, in a competition and exchange. An earth-shaking sound suddenly struck the starry sky. This sound awakened all the creatures from their shock, and then each of them suddenly discovered, that's right. Electric Ghost, a stellar powerhouse in their stellar domain, has completely lost his life. What is this about Jia Yan, a genius from the battlefield, who actually dares to kill people from the Stellar Academy during a competition and exchange? It's simply unbearable. All the creatures had just reacted, but the creature that made the roar of the sky-shattering mountain was already the first one to attack Jia Yan suddenly. He has a goat-like appearance, but his expression is different from the goats on Earth, full of murderous looks. Western Bandit. Thanks to Brother Shaoxin Jingdu for the reward of 1000 starting coins, to book friend 201702211502598556 for the reward of 500 starting coins, and to Fu Lonely for the reward, thank you. Please remember the first domain name of this book. VIP Chinese. Mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Buletin Yu. Chapter 1271. Of course, one of the two star-level bodies in the battle circle is Jia Yan. As for the huge body next to him, it turned into a corpse as expected, and it was none other than the electric ghost Wei. At this time, the electric ghost no longer had the electric light-blazing appearance it had before, but had transformed into a long creature without any strange appearance. If it were placed on the earth, there might be people who would regard such a huge corpse as that of a Chinese dragon. But in Jia Yan's opinion, this guy's body was just a larger loach. Jia Yan gained a lot from fighting with him. This was the second time he fought against a stellar powerhouse after his promotion, but this time he was different from the previous battle target Kongping. He was a stellar powerhouse promoted from a genius in the stellar academic field. In terms of combat power, he is definitely stronger than Kongping, and even in terms of domain ability, he is more terrifying than Kongping. Therefore, Jia Yan gained a lot, and now he needs to digest it for a few minutes before he can absorb and transform the knowledge of this battle. And Jia Yan was in the midst of deep enlightenment. But he suddenly heard a roar in his ears. Then a thrilling coercion suddenly came in the direction of Jia Yan. Western Bandit. How could Jia Yan not know who this familiar voice was? He knew that he would have a battle with the bandits later, but he never imagined that the bandits would be despicable enough to take advantage of this moment to attack him. Western Bandit, stop it. Just when Jia Yan heard this voice, Long Ta's voice also sounded. Thinking of the brazen attack of the Western Bandits, Long Ta was shocked and angry and intercepted it. Your Excellency Long Ta, this Jia Yan is treasonous and uses cheating methods in the battle. Please don't let him cheat. And just when Longta took action, another unknown voice from a star-level expert in the stellar field also sounded. Even if Longta and Luo Beiju want to rescue them, this is the Stellar Academy. How can they stop the Western Bandits? This Western bandit still wants to accuse me of cheating. Humph. Jia Yan didn't have much time to react. After hearing these sounds in an instant, he quickly judged the situation, and then reflexively moved his body sideways with all his strength. Puff! Just when Jia Yan had just escaped less than 2 kilometers away, a huge goat-like creature suddenly struck from his original position. The place where he had been before made an overwhelming sound, and then the space collapsed and completely turned into a place of nothingness. What a terrifying power! Jia Yan's heart was beating wildly when he saw it. This kind of power was so terrifying that even he didn't dare to test it easily with Azure Defense. You must know that Azure's defense is powerful, but it still has not completely transformed into a stellar-level defense. It could easily prevent the attack of the electric ghost before, because the attack of the electric ghost is not too terrifying. But the sudden attack was different. Jia Yan even suspected that in terms of strength, this Western bandit was not much different from the one who chased him back then. Western bandit, are you looking for death in such a hurry? You actually attack by surprise. After dodging the opponent's blow, Jia Yan's anger also rose in his heart, and he stared at the Western bandit with murderous eyes and said coldly. Of course the attacker was a Western bandit. At this moment, when he saw that Jia Yan was able to dodge his attack that was like a sneak attack, his heart skipped a beat. But at this moment, he suppressed the shock in his heart and turned to where Jia Yan was. Jia Yan, you must have used cheating methods to defeat the electric ghost. Otherwise, how could the electric ghost lose to you? And when you used cheating methods, you also ruthlessly killed the electric ghost. To deal with you like this, author, do you think we need to pay attention to sneak attacks or not? I cheated. Ha, that's ridiculous. Could it be that when you saw me defeating 11 Gui, you were afraid that you would follow in his footsteps, so you attacked me regardless of your reputation? But it doesn't matter if you do it, you will be beaten anyway. After Jia Yan exchanged a few words with the Western bandits, he turned his attention to the direction of Long Ta and Luo Beiju, who had stopped fighting because of his words. He looked at the several stellar-level experts from the astral learning area who were blocking the two geniuses from the battle area astral level. You guys, you can easily tell whether I have cheated or not, so I will leave it at that. If you still fight with Lord Longta and Luo Beiju, then you are offending my genius battlefield. Do you think you can bear it? Is this the result? We just stopped the two of them from going to besiege the Western bandits. Jia Yan, we haven't decided whether you cheated or not. In short, you will fight the Western bandits first. As for whether you cheated, we will wait until after the battle. Talk. Those stellar powerhouses unanimously made this decision after talking in whispers. Very good, then wait until I kill this Western bandit, and then you will know whether I cheated or not. Jia Yan's heart surged with anger, and the murderous intent in his eyes became even more intense. You must know that he has always had a bad temper and is not easy to bully. It's just that I was not strong in the past, so I kept suppressing it in the starry sky. I didn't expect that when I arrived in the starry sky, I would be accused of cheating. This makes Jia Yan unbearable. Since you think my strength is not strong enough, right? Then I will show you how strong I am. Jia Yan, you still dare not to admit that you cheated, and you even want to kill me. You are seeking your own death, now come and die for me. When the Western bandits heard that Jia Yan actually wanted to kill him, their anger continued to surge. Of course, the more reason is that the Western bandits also vaguely feel that Jia Yan does not seem to be that simple. If he doesn't kill Jia Yan while he has just fought with the electric ghost at this moment, his strength will definitely drop a lot. Jia Yan's strength has recovered, and there might be some surprises in his battle with Jia Yan. Want to take advantage of me? Jia Yan understands the thoughts of other creatures. Seeing that the Western bandit is eager to fight with him quickly, Jia Yan immediately understands the Western bandit's thoughts. That is, he wants to take advantage of his own strength, and after the confrontation with the electric ghost, he must be weak, and take advantage of the situation to kill himself. Oh, I will let you know how terrifying the physical strength and resilience of the evolved beasts are. You don't understand at all how terrifying the evolved beasts are. Jia Yan looked coldly at the charging figure of the Western bandits. It has to be said that the strength of the Western bandit is much stronger than that of the electric ghost. After all, as a being who has reached the star level for decades, and was also a high-level genius before, he has the same talent as the electric ghost. The level, coupled with the precipitation of time, will of course be much stronger than the electric ghost. However, after the battle just now, Jia Yan's strength has not declined, and he is even slightly stronger after fighting an extremely powerful star-level opponent. So at this juncture, instead of retreating, he moved his front foot and went in the opposite direction and fiercely attacked the Western bandits. Puff puff. In an instant, the two star-level creatures exchanged several moves in the starry sky. The goat's horns of the Western bandits struck in the direction of Jia Yan. Jia Yan, on the other hand, resisted with his front feet. The azure brilliance continued to bloom with breaking light, but he showed no intention of retreating. What? He can still resist my attack, hasn't his physical fitness declined? The Western bandit was shocked when he saw that Jia Yan could still resist his horns. According to his idea, Jia Yan's strength should have dropped greatly, and then when he attacked, he was completely unable to resist, and fell into a death crisis in a few moves, and then he broke out the field and killed Jia Yan in one fell swoop. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan was not at a disadvantage under such an attack. This was different from what he had expected. Western bandit, don't hide your shock. I know very well what people like you think. Back then, you just couldn't calm down your weak heart, so you escaped from the genius battlefield and came to the Stellar Academy. Is that correct? Jia Yan smiled slightly. Even though his front foot continued to break, the blue defense was like a brave soldier who was not afraid of death. He repaired the break in a moment. From the outside world, he was in the confrontation. Almost no damage at all. You want to use psychological warfare against me? That's a good idea, Jia Yan, don't talk nonsense, because no matter how you talk, you can't escape death. The Western bandits seemed not to be moved by Jia Yan's words at all. Am I kidding? No, West bandit, I'm just telling you what I know about you. You claim to be a star and think you are powerful, but have you ever thought about your strength will always only be in the shadow of Lord Longta? I seem to have seen you and Lord Longta meet many times, but I never heard that you challenged Lord Longta. The person who left a shadow on you back then, you don't dare to challenge, doesn't it mean that you have no confidence in winning? It even indirectly means that you are a coward at all. Jia Yan kept talking, and his eyes flashed with sneer. Now, you are even more cowardly. You are even afraid of me, a new star-level powerhouse, and you actually use sneak attack tactics. West bandit, tell me, you treat a star-level powerhouse who should be great, but you are so useless, do you still deserve to say that you are a star? You, Jia Yan. Bastard, you are so slanderous. After hearing Jia Yan's analysis of his mentality word by word, the bandit finally lost his composure. At this time, he became even more angry and his attacks became even more ferocious. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan easily dodged his attack. Haha, you are right, 11 bandit, your strength is strong, but your mentality is not strong enough, and you are still a strong man who is afraid of death. Please tell me, in what direction is your mentality developing? Don't you want to hide your timid nature? People like you can't hide it no matter how much you do. Jia Yan laughed, and then seemed to think of something. By the way, let me ask the people around me. Do the Western bandits you know only dare to fight against creatures that are far weaker than themselves? The next chapter may be later, maybe 12:30. I'm sorry. Please remember the first domain name of this book. For you are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1272. Although the battle between Jia Yan and the Western bandits was extremely exciting, there were still many creatures from the Stellar Academy listening to the conversation between Jia Yan and the Western bandits. Hey, what Jia Yan said seems to be right. If you think about it carefully, every time Senior West Bandit fights, they are with stars that are weaker than him. Even in the star-level battles within the academic domain, it seems that also like this. I feel the same way. Last time I saw that Senior Tutang, who was similar in strength to Senior West Bandit, challenged him, but Senior West Bandit actually refused. Could it be that, Senior West Bandit is really, as Jia Yan said, a being who only dares to fight against stars that are far weaker than himself? Well, it's a good thing that I used to like Senior West Bandit so much. He actually has such a character and his moves are so violent. It turns out he was all lying to us. When the geniuses in the stellar academic field heard Jia Yan's words and compared them with the current battle scene of the Western bandits, they all seemed to be in disbelief as if they suddenly understood. Voices were heard one after another. Even the very shameless Western bandits heard it at this time and became completely furious. Ah, Jia Yan. I'm going to kill you. After Jia Yan hit on his last weakness, the bandit roared like crazy. Then, Jia Yan felt that the pressure he was facing finally reached its peak. That's right, West Bandit, your ability to fight hard is pretty good. But not enough. Jia Yan's expression moved slightly, and he once again fought with the opponent. Under this blow, Jia Yan felt that a large section of his front foot was completely broken off. What a terrifying power! Is this a strong man who has been in the early stages of the star for a long time? Even though he was hurting the Western bandits, Jia Yan had no idea of despising the Western bandits. As Jia Yan has always understood, any strong person who has entered the stellar level cannot be underestimated. Perhaps the Western bandits know this well, so they do not dare to fight with strong people with similar strength to themselves, but specifically looking for stars who have just stepped into the stars and do not even have the power of the field to increase their reputation. With this blow, Jia Yan saw that the real strength of the Western bandits was completely crushing him in terms of strength. At that moment, Jia Yan changed his playing style. Buzz. The space fluctuated for a while, and Jia Yan tore open the subspace. He stepped back, and his 1-kilometer-long body instantly entered the subspace. Do you want to use your subspace talent? To deal with stellar powerhouses, your subspace talent is not enough. The bandit's eyes were fixed on a certain place in the space. When he finished speaking, his goat horn suddenly hit that place. Boom! In the starry sky, the sound of a large space collapsing continued to ripple in this space. The ram's horn seemed to have a strange power. The collapse of the space did not stop, and the whole world was faintly filled with a different power. If you say that I don't dare to fight with the stellar class, you don't understand. If we really want to fight, who will I be afraid of with my strength? There was a murderous intent in the Western bandit's goat eyes, and his whole demeanor was slightly different from before. This Western bandit has actually reached the star level and still retains this racial talent. No good, this is too dangerous. Outside the fighting circle, Longta saw the change in the West bandit's eyes, and his expression also changed. What's wrong? Luo Beiju asked in surprise. This is a big clan combat skill, there was a hint of fear in Longta's eyes. The race of the Western bandits is a large star clan around our genius battlefield. There are 4 star-level experts in their race. One of them has even reached the late star level. His strength is earth-shattering. The most powerful one is the violent talent he possesses will make him unconscious for a period of time after being used, but his strength can be increased to about twice. Even if he adds the power of the field, his combat power can reach the level around a genius battlefield. The level of one of the top 10 strong men. You mean, this Western bandit also has this kind of talent? A talent from a wealthy family that can be combined with the domain, this. Luo Beiju was shocked when he heard this, and then looked at Jia Yan in the battle with a slightly worried look. I didn't think Jia Yan could defeat the Western bandits in the first place. Now I hope he can see the facts clearly and admit defeat, otherwise we won't be able to stop him. Longta's expression was gloomy. He was an old rival of the Western bandits. Of course, he had tasted the talent of the Western bandits. However, the combat skills of the Western bandits at that time were not stable. He thought that when the Western bandits reached the star level, they must have given up on this. Unexpectedly, the fighting skills of the wealthy clans were retained. In this case, there is a reason for his star level to refuse to fight with strong people. It's not that he lacks self-confidence, or that he's weak, but because he can't master the fighting skills of the big clan. Once he takes action, it can easily cause death or injury. Jia Yan, you should admit defeat now. The Western bandit uses the powerful fighting skills. Even if you are an evolved beast, it is impossible to defeat him. Longta's brainwave power sent a message to Jia Yan, asking him to admit defeat. As long as he admitted defeat, he and Luo Beiju would have reason to save people. He did not expect that Jia Yan would send a message back with a smile after listening to his words. Your Excellency Longta, the fighting skills of the Western bandits are nothing more than this. I can still fight, please don't worry. Oh, Jia Yan, if he can listen to advice, he is not Jia Yan. Longta showed an expression that was indeed the case. He almost smiled bitterly, because even though Jia Yan could barely cope with it now, the Western bandits still had the most powerful card, domain. The current Western bandits are no longer something Jia Yan can deal with. If the territory is opened, what else can Jia Yan fight? You'll be lucky if you don't get killed by the bandit in one move. They want to rescue, but they don't have any legitimate reason to take action. If there is no reason, the star-level powerhouses in the stellar academic field around them who are eagerly looking at them will not be easy to deal with. Jia Yan. Die, die. Haha, you people from the genius battlefield should all die. Sure enough, after the goat's eyes turned red, the bandit's speech became abnormal and his attacks became fierce. However, despite the chaos, his attack and combat thinking did not seem to be affected. Instead, he became faster and more ferocious, as if he was a different person than before. To deny the genius battlefield is to deny your past, 11 bandit, you are not willing to accept it. You did not become the strongest genius in the genius battlefield. Do you know why? It is because your talent is weak. Are you going crazy while being beaten? A creature like you is not worthy of being a strong man, West bandit. I don't even bother to fight you. When the Western bandit said something, Jia Yan would reply with a few words, each one of which was heart-wrenching. The already crazy Western bandit was so angry that he flew into a rage. After reaching the stellar level, Jia Yan gradually discovered that fighting can be more than just fighting. No matter what means are used, as long as he can win the battle, any means is a good choice. Just like now, he uses words to arouse the anger of the Western bandits. Even if it seems to be an uneconomical move in the short term, Jia Yan knows his own advantage, which is to fight a protracted war. Evolved beasts have long endurance. The longer they fight, the more they will make you cry. So now Jia Yan is deliberately causing the Western bandits to break out. Anyway, he can still resist. If he can resist, he will consume the enemy's strength. When facing the domain later, the pressure on him will be slightly reduced. Of course, this is just Jia Yan's own idea. he still doesn't know what state a star will be in when he uses his domain. You dare to slander me? I want you to die, I want you to die, ah. The Western bandit was so angry that he wanted to cut Jia Yan into pieces. If he could calm down, he would definitely find that Jia Yan's words and deeds now have a certain purpose, but how could he think of this at this time? He was just furious and mad. You want me to die? You have yelled like this countless times. Use it if you have the ability, Western bandit, so you are not good in the genius battlefield or the stellar academic field. It is not your talent that is not good, and it is not you. Your race is not good, and you are not good enough. It is a complete waste to give you this body and talent. You bandit, you are just a coward and a coward. Jia Yan's lengthy words of defiance finally made the Western bandits unbearable. Give me, die. Field. Boom. An extremely terrifying roar exploded between heaven and earth. The arrogant voice of the Western bandits resounded even louder through the starry sky. Jia Yan, you keep scolding me. Haha, once the realm is opened, you are still alive. Suddenly, an extremely astonishing bloody ball appeared in the starry sky. Find bookstore. This ball was extremely huge, covering an entire 1,000 kilometers, and was almost the size of a small planet. Everything in this space is blood red, and even the smell inside is almost nauseating. This, the territory of the Western bandits, is so huge. Even the two stars Longta and Lubihu, who saw the size of this domain in the outside world, were shocked by the size of the West bandits' domain. You must know that their territory is not as good as that of the Western bandits, it is even more than twice as small. No. This is the result of the bonuses brought by the big clan's combat skills. The actual strength of the field is still at the same level as ours. It's just that when it gets bigger, the field bonuses that can be used inside will be stronger. Even if we enter, we will have to have some trouble. Jia Yan is in danger. Longta and Luo Bei were as anxious as ants on a hot pot, because compared to other talented battlefield star-level powerhouses, the two of them were friendly to Jia Yan, even if the reputation of the evolved beasts was not that good, but in fact everyone is optimistic about Jia Yan. If this member of the evolutionary beast clan can reach such an astonishing level in the future like his predecessors, why does he care about the genius battlefield? Holding this thigh is worth several genius battlefields. But now they actually saw with their own eyes that Jia Yan had fallen into the territory of the Western bandits, which even if they entered, there was no guarantee that they would not be suppressed. This made the two of them extremely shocked and angry. Jia Yan has been told to admit defeat a long time ago. Even if he wants to admit defeat now, in the field, as long as the Western bandits do anything, his voice will not be heard outside. Save or not to save? The two star classes were silent for a moment. However, just as they were silent, something suddenly happened in that field. A frightening and terrifying sound of battle broke out. Please remember the first domain name of this book. VIP Chinese. Mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1273. Western Bandit, your domain power is nothing more than this. In the bloody space, Jia Yan's voice sounded softly. The surrounding world was almost completely immersed in the bloody land, and Jia Yan stood proudly within an extremely twisted square inch. The blood filled the air, but there was not a trace of red in this square inch. Because those red domain powers were actually blocked by a small twisted black around Jia Yan's body. This is, Jia Yan, you actually have a prototype of a domain. You have a prototype of a domain, and you lied to me that you don't have a domain, you bastard. When the Western bandit saw the distortion around Jia Yan's body, he immediately realized that this was actually the prototype of the domain. Is this the prototype of the domain? West bandit, if you don't tell me, I don't know yet. Jia Yan looked around his body indifferently. There seemed to be endless twists and endless space in the wisps of black. Only then did he realize that this was the prototype of the realm. Jia Yan really didn't know that this was the prototype of the domain. He didn't even know before that the power of resistance he secretly used when fighting the electric ghost was the prototype of the domain. Jia Yan, are you just talking words? Give me a fight. I don't believe that you, a prototype of a domain, can resist my domain. The Western bandits were furious. The surrounding world instantly became filled with the color of blood, and Jia Yan also felt that the black distortion around his body seemed to be shattered at this moment. After all, this is just the prototype of the field and has not yet become a real field. Compared with the Western bandits' field, which has exploded in strength, there is a huge gap. However, Jia Yan had no intention of fighting with the prototype of this domain. Even the emergence of this prototype was just an unexpected surprise for him. You think that because your field is strong, you can make me lose. Jia Yan looked at the vicious Western bandit indifferently, and then rushed toward him like a madman. He sneered, then turned his body behind him and stepped down suddenly. It's useless, Jia Yan, do you still think you can create a space in my domain? It's completely impossible. The Western bandit laughed, his horns had already reached Jia Yan. Whether it can be broken or not is not up to you. A flash of light flashed in Jia Yan's eyes, and then he smashed the horns, attacking in front of him with all four of his feet. After entering the domain, the Western bandits were so powerful that they were at least 5 times stronger than in the outside world. Just now in the outside world, Jia Yan could barely resist his normal attacks, but in this area, even if Jia Yan's 4 feet came against him, he couldn't resist the opponent's attacks. Click, click, click. 4 consecutive crackling sounds sounded strangely in this space. Jia Yan's 4 legs actually broke when he was dealing with the Western bandits. It's scary. After this guy entered the domain, I thought he was no longer strong enough to fight against me. There was a hint of shock in Jia Yan's eyes, but the step on his back had already had its effect. A black spherical object, right behind Jia Yan, suddenly used its own gravity to help him tear apart the space. What? It's actually black, a black hole. The Western bandit was shocked and almost stopped his attack in fear. But after all, he is a powerful star-level expert. He was just shocked at this time and immediately came back to his senses. It turns out it's just a man-made black hole. Jia Yan, you are using it to scare people, right? In addition to cheating, you also use this method. Could it be that you used this black hole to defeat the electric ghost before? This guy completely regarded Jia Yan as the most evil creature, but what he didn't understand was that he himself was the most evil creature, and he even went to the extent of smearing Jia Yan in order to defeat him. However, his current state affected his thinking, and he would not think that he was wrong at all, and his feelings of blaming Jia Yan were almost amplified countless times. Whether it's scary or not, you can see for yourself. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly and sighed. Facing such a stellar powerhouse, even if the opponent's strength could be of great help to him, he still felt uncomfortable at this moment. This kind of crazy star level is completely meaningless to fight. When he retreated, because of the help of the black hole in the subspace, he stepped into the subspace without much impact. You can still escape. If you have the ability, just come out and fight me. The Western bandit did not expect that Jia Yan could escape into the subspace with the help of the artificial black hole. In this case, his use of the field would have almost no effect, and he was so angry that he almost went crazy. As you wish. Jia Yan's indifferent voice sounded beside the bandit. He originally wanted to conduct a sneak attack, but he didn't expect that he would be discovered by the Western bandits as soon as he entered the subspace. Despicable, you actually attacked me secretly. Jia Yan felt his whole body condense. The blood-like realm completely enveloped his body, and even had a murderous mentality that quietly affected Jia Yan, making him almost go crazy. Very scary. Jia Yan's heart was shocked, and he barely recovered from that state of mind, and then felt a burst of horror in his heart. But before he could think too much, the Western bandit's attack had already landed on his head. Without strong defensive means, this blow would kill Jia Yan. Snort. Jia Yan quickly used the gravity of the black hole, coupled with his subspace talent, to instantly avoid important parts backwards. However, the opponent's blow was still not completely avoided. At this moment, Jia Yan felt a tentacle on his forehead and a sharp pain that almost shook the earth. Then he saw a broken tentacle flying directly in front of him. Under the severe pain, Jia Yan even thought of death. Fortunately, this feeling is only for a moment. He is worthy of being a star-level powerhouse, and he is extremely powerful among the entry-level stars. I think his explosive strength is not much different from that of Huo Qiu. After his tentacles were broken by the opponent's corner, Jia Yan was pulled by the black hole and entered the subspace. Haha, Jia Yan, you know it, there is a huge difference between you and me. Stop hiding, come out and die. The bandits were very happy when they saw that Jia Yan had even lost one of his tentacles under his series of attacks. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan was also in the subspace and smiled lightly. This Western bandit is so stupid. He thinks that I have no confidence at all, so he will fight with him, a strong man who has been in the primary level of stars for a long time. Okay, now my backup plan is almost ready. Now. Just show it. Jia Yan retreated to a place further away from the Western bandits in the subspace. In fact, even though the subspace under the control of this domain can allow Jia Yan to come and go freely, the distance he can actually move is very short, and the speed in it is not very fast. There is even a bloody domain that permeates the area all the time. Enter, wanting to control Jia Yan. Therefore, Jia Yan is not completely safe in the subspace at this time. After arriving about 100 kilometers away from the Western bandits, the bloody field just behind them also pursued them in the subspace. Get out of here! The Western bandit roared angrily from outside. As you wish. Jia Yan's voice sounded within the domain, and then he stepped out of the subspace and once again appeared completely within the domain of the Western bandits. Even this time, Jia Yan didn't use the prototype of his domain, and felt that he was completely controlled by the Western bandits in an instant. Haha, Jia Yan, do you have no physical strength anymore? I told you, how can a newcomer like you have such strong physical strength? The Western bandits rushed forward impatiently. After all, Jia Yan no longer had the prototype of his domain, so he would definitely be at the mercy of others. He was afraid that there would be some changes. When he rushed forward, he didn't pay attention to the changes around him, and he never thought that there would be any changes in his own field that he couldn't resist. The bandits are too careless. But even if he were a different star, he probably wouldn't be able to notice Jia Yan's next move. Because who would have thought? The fragments of Jia Yan's shattered body were actually like time bombs. Western bandit, you can go and die. Jia Yan looked at the Western bandits rushing in front of him and shook his head. Die, you are the one who goes there. Before the West bandit finished speaking, Jia Yan, who was almost hit by the West bandit's horns in front of him, said lightly. Looking for books. Burst. Boom. At this moment, the Western bandits finally noticed that the place where Jia Yan came was the place where he had broken off his tentacles. There are even many fragments of Jia Yan's broken body caused by being attacked by the Western bandits. At this moment, these fragments, one by one, glowed with terrifying light, and then expand, explode. At this moment, under this astonishing explosion, the entire field swelled up almost instantly. Creatures outside the domain, including even those star-level experts, looked in disbelief at the moment when they saw that the territory of the Western bandit was directly under the power of an explosion that made them all tremble with fear. The whole thing tore and then fell apart. This, this, this. What's going on? Does Jia Yan still have such a method? The two talented warriors from the battlefield, Longta and Lubihu, who had just wanted to help, were completely frightened by this terrifying explosion. As Jia Yan is a creature that has just entered the stellar realm, no one would think that he really has the ability to fight against strong men who are stable at the stellar realm. Even if Longta had seen with his own eyes that Jia Yan could hold on for a few breaths in front of the interstellar existence before he reached the stellar level, this did not prevent him from despising Jia Yan. He always believed that being able to defeat the electric ghost before was already Jia Yan's strongest strength. But now he realized that he was wrong. How wrong? The evolved beast is so powerful. He said with shock in his heart. There have been problems with the input method in the past 2 days, and the next chapter will also be around 12:30. Excuse me. Please remember the first domain name of this book. neoshu.com